Hello, everyone, and welcome back to day number 3 of the Casting Colosseum. My name is Silent Snake, aka The Snake, and with me is Dinotropia, and we've got some exciting matchups for you today. Our first matchup of the night is Speedlimit versus JacquoRen. For those of you who were with us on day number 2, Speedlimit is our first gladiator to actually be defeated. So he is back here with a vengeance. Let's go over Speedlimit's card. He is coming from Northern Indiana, USA. He is 28 and 3/4 years old. He has 10 years of TCG experience. He enjoys whatever deck he can think of, but he tends to gravitate towards control. And a known fact for Speedlimit, he enjoys short walks to the fridge and really hopes to find that special legendary one day. You can find Speedlimit on Twitch at twitch.tv/Speedlimit55. And let's take a look at the deck that Speedlimit is piloting today. It is called Much Archon. We'll go over the troops in this deck. He's playing 4 copies of Archon of Nulzon, 3 copies of Howling Brave, 4 Buccaneers. That is it for troops as far as actions. He's playing 2 Counter Magics, 2 Oracle Songs, 4 Chlorophyllias, 3 Time Ripples, 2 Mimics, 4 Arcane Focuses, 4 Oaken Ceremonies, and 4 Replicators Gambits. Resource pool is rounded off with 4 Shards of Instinct, and he's playing Wyatt the Sapper, which has a starting health pool of 21, requires a double Sapphire threshold, and you can pay 5 to draw a card.
So if Speedlimit needs to redeem himself from his Sunday loss, this is a pretty good way to do it. I feel like what you might lose in efficiency with this deck, you gain in style points. This is actually a deck that we have run various variants of in things like the 4 Keeps competition. Let me give you a quick strategic rundown. The focus of Much Archon is a combo. You want to get Archon of Nulzon with a gem in it, usually the Bury gem, with a Replicator's Gambit. If you want to pull that card up, you will see that it will put a copy of a troop that you have onto the board back into your deck. When you replay that troop, it will put 6 copies of that troop back into play. Archon of Nulzon has a 4/4 body, so that's 8 cards being buried off the top of a deck. Repeat that 6 times, well, very few decks can withstand that kind of pressure. It is a complete bury victory. The other aspect of this combo is Mimic. Archon of Nulzon does have an ability where you can pay 2 resources from your hand to replace any Archon that is in your hand with any other copy of Archon that is in your deck. So if you have 1 copy of Archon of Nulzon, you can fish for any other one. Mimic will put a replica of any given Archon into your hand. So the basic combo goes, Speedlimit is going to look for an Archon, which he puts onto the ground. He's going to want to mimic that Archon, so he has a fresh copy in his hand. Then he's going to want to Replicator's Gambit, the copy of the Archon that is on the ground, so that he can search for it and replay it for an instant win. It is the craziest of combo decks. Let's see how it plays out here tonight.
And his opponent from the other side of the board is JacquoRen. He's hailing from Atlanta, Georgia in the USA. He's 27 years old. He likes to play aggressive decks. And in fact, he streams Hex Shards of Fate and is in the process of making his own video game. So very exciting stuff for JacquoRen. Let's take a look at the deck he's piloting tonight. It is called Blood Bunny. Troop breakdown for this deck is 2 Profane Ritualists, 4 Wakizashi Ambushers, 1 Monsoon Shogun of the Windajin, 2 Tormented Ritualists, 4 Disciples of Yazukan, 3 Shinhir Eulogists, 4 Shroom Shaws, and 4 Minion of Yazukans. As far as actions, he's playing 5 Feeding the Young Ones, or I'm sorry, 2 Feeding the Young Ones, 1 Blood Aura, 3 Gifts of the Yazukan. He's also playing a couple Constants, 2 Born to Die, and 4 Wretched Brood, as well as a single copy of Scroll of Yazukan. Rounding out his resource pool, he's playing 3 Crackling Vortex, and he's playing Bonoshi the Ruthless, which has a starting health pool of 18 and a single blood threshold. He can pay 3, sacrifice a troop, and another target troop gets +2/+2.
All right, let's break this down. Looking at the deck, we see a lot of sort of cheap Shinhir troops, things like Shinhir Eulogist, things like the Wakizashi Ambusher. These troops gain advantage from other Shinhair dying. So what JacquoRen is going to want to do is build up a board and then sacrifice that board to create one or two major threats that then can be used to carry his way to victory. Strategically, he's going to want to protect those threats or sacrifice them with certain kinds of advantages. So case in point might be Gift of Yazakan. He can, if one of his major threats dies, bring it right back and make it even more powerful by giving it pluses, also lethal and life drain. Finally, another sort of key piece is something like Profane Ritualist. If something important dies, it will be able to improve the stats of other troops.
So let's get on with the matchup. Again, this is Speedlimit versus JacquoRen. Speedlimit looking to redeem himself from Sunday. We're going to check out opening hands for both players. Pretty excited about this matchup. I want to see this combo from Speedlimit, Dino. Hopefully he can pull it off.
Oh, yeah. It's difficult to pull off, but when it does, you're just rooting for him all the way. It's crazy.
JacquoRen has won the coin toss. Opening hand for Speedlimit is a Sapphire Wild Shard, Chlorophylla, Replicator's Gambit, Archon of Nolzon, and Double Buccaneer. On the opposite side for JacquoRen, looks like he's going to mulligan. He mulligans down to 5. He's got a Blood Shard, Crackling Vortex, Gift of the Yazukan, Wretched Brood, and Shinhair Eulogist.
I'm pretty excited about Speedlimit's opening hand in particular. Here we see 1 Archon and a Replicator's Gambit. So 2 out of the 3 cards for this combo are already in hand.
JacquoRen plays a Blood Shard. We'll pass a turn back over to Speedlimit.
And one of the big things as far as this overall flow of the match is that Speedlimit is going to need to find his key combo pieces before JacquoRen can build up his threats. You know, a Shinhair Eulogist, once it gets going, it can become a massive troop very quickly with just a few sacrifice effects.
Speedlimit draws a Chlorophylla. We'll play a Sapphire Shard. And looks like he's going to pass a turn back over to JacquoRen. Definitely needs to draw some gas. Draw for Jacko. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, going down to 5 is rough when it comes to putting that pressure onto your opponent. He's going to have to draw well.
Crackling Vortex is played. Shinhair Eulogist will join the board for JacquoRen, and he'll pass a turn to Speedlimit. Draw for Speedlimit is a Time Ripple. We'll play a Wild Shard. It looks like he's going to play Chlorophylla, so he's going to ramp up a little bit.
One thing that should be mentioned is JacquoRen does have Benoshi the Ruthless. I was talking about sacrifice effects. JacquoRen's champion, Benoshi, for 3 charges, will allow him to sacrifice a troop at will and give +2/+2 to another troop. It's a very powerful effect.
Turn passes back over to JacquoRen. Sitting with Wakizashi Ambusher, Wretched Brood, Gift of Yazakan, draws a Blood Shard. We'll play it now. Is at 3 resources. We'll play out Wretched Brood.
Wretched Brood will allow you to create a Battle Hopper at the cost of 1 health every turn.
Swing in with Combat Phase with the Shinhair Eulogist. That'll be 2 damage, bringing Speedlimit down to 19. We'll pass the turn. Draw for Speedlimit is an Archon of Nolzon.
Oh, wow. That is the combo piece. Now he just needs resources. It is quite literally a race against time. No more searching.
Chlorophylla is played from Speedlimit, which will play a Wild Shard from his deck. He's at 2 resources available. And looks like he's going to pass the turn back over to JacquoRen.
So one of the key protection pieces for the Archon of Nolzon is that it does have the Spell Shield gem equipped. And so JacquoRen, I don't believe, has any board wipes. He has to essentially kill Speedlimit before the Archon comes off and then can be replayed. I'd give him maybe 5 or 6 turns if Speedlimit hits all his resources.
Crackling Vortex is the draw for JacquoRen. He will tunnel the Wakizashi Ambusher. 2 resources remaining and Gift of Yazukan left in his hand as we get ready to go into attack phase. Looks like he's going to sacrifice onto the Shinhair Eulogist, but a Time Ripple from Speedlimit.
Good play.
is going to put that Shinhir Eulogist back in his hand. It's going to be too much for him to play this turn. It is 3 costs, only 2 resources remaining. Turn passes back over to Speedlimit. His draw is a Howling Brave.
It was such a good play there because, on the one hand, it wastes the champion power. The Shinhir Eulogist is not going to be buffed up beyond the initial effect of having another Shinhir die. And also, as Snake pointed out, you cannot replay the Shinhir Eulogist in the same turn, which is a huge tempo loss.
Howling Brave is the only play from Speedlimit as he passes the turn back over to JacquoRen. Battle Hopper is created due to Wretched Brood. He will also take a point of damage. He's at 16. His draws a Shroomshaw. And Shinhir Eulogist will again go on the board for JacquoRen.
JacquoRen needs to put a little bit more pressure on if he can. He's going to try the sacrifice effect one more time.
Looks like it is going to go through. So a 6/6 Shinhir Eulogist on the field for JacquoRen as he passes the turn to Speedlimit. Speedlimit's draw is a Wild Shard, now up to 5 resources.
He has it. The combo's online. If he wanted to, he could play the Archon of Nulzahn right now.
Activation of Howling Brave would give him 6 resources. It looks like he is going to do that, so he's going to be up to 6 temporary resources. Archon of Nulzahn will join the field for Speedlimit.
He's thinking about it. So when it comes down, it's going to bury 8 cards off of JacquoRen. So that's already pretty impressive. Because of his resource base right now, he's going to need 2 more turns for the full-fledged bury victory to happen.
Talking about removal, Feeding the Young Ones is one of the cards that is removed and sent to JacquoRen's crypt. And Speedlimit will pass the turn back over to JacquoRen. Wretched Brood will create a Battle Hopper. 6/6 Shinhir Eulogist on the board. His draw is a Blood Shard. That'll take him up to 5. Gifted Yazakhan and Shroomshaw in hand. We're going to combat phase. Shinhir Eulogist is probably going to swing in here. That'll be 6 damage. And it does swing in, so Speedlimit's going to have to figure out how he wants to handle this. Looks like he's going to take the damage. That'll bring Speedlimit down to 13 health.
So taking the damage is a little bit risky. There is a Wakizashi Ambusher currently tunneled on JacquoRen's side of the board. But, as long as he keeps at least 1 blocker up, I think he needs 1 more resource to also play a Buccaneer. And there it is.
Oken Ceremony is the draw. He will Replicator's Gambit the Archon of Nulzahn. He will play a Wild Shard. He's going to activate his champion ability, Wyatt the Sapper, to draw a card. It's a Sapphire Shard, and Buccaneer will join the board for Speedlimit, and he will choose a target to put back in his opponent's hand, and it's going to be that Shinhir Eulogist, so it's going to go back into JacquoRen's hand.
This is actually really critical. If Speedlimit had taken another swing, that would bring him down into the range where a big buffed up Wakizashi Ambusher might be able to cinch the deal with a combat trick.
Turn passes back over to JacquoRen. A Wretched Brood is created, creates a Battle Hopper. Wakizashi surfaces from being tunneled. It has 4 attack, so it will be able to eliminate a threat. JacquoRen just has to decide which he feels is a bigger threat, the Howling Brave or the Buccaneer. Chooses the Buccaneer. So that will be removed and sent to Speedlimit's crypt. Draw for JacquoRen. It's a Gift of Yazakhan. So he has 2 of those in hand with a Shinhir Eulogist and a Shroomshaw. We go to attack. And Wakizashi Ambusher is inbound. That's 4 damage. If Speedlimit takes it, it'll put him down to 9 health. Decides that the Howling Brave has done his job. Will block.
9 health is still fairly respectable. Speedlimit, barring any unforeseen complications, does have the lethal combination in his hand.
Shinhir Eulogist is being played by JacquoRen. In response, Speedlimit will activate the ability from Archon of Nulzahn. So he's going to be fishing for another Archon from his deck.
And this is really just the epitome of what makes a combo deck so combo-y and also fun to play. it's weak until you have the combo pieces, and then you feel just so powerful. The one hit kill, the glass cannon just all of a sudden going off. Here it goes.
Sapphire Shard is drawn and played for Speed Limit, and here comes the Archon of Nulzon. Times 6 or 7 total on the board. And that takes all of the cards out of JacquoRen's deck. And unfortunately for JacquoRen, at the start of his turn, he will not be able to draw a card, and this matchup will be over.
Look at that animation, just the whip, 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 flying into the crypt like that. So satisfying.
It's satisfying unless you're the person on the opposite side, seeing your deck immediately go into the crypt without post haste.
Yes.
So, unfortunately for JacquoRen, I'm sure he's not feeling as excited as we are, or as Speed Limit is in that matchup there, with all his cards visiting the crypt.
Looks like it's all right. It's just the first one. He's got some time.
Absolutely. So it looks like JacquoRen may be trying to talk to Speed Limit, is not passing priority. But yeah, it's kind of hard to combo to stop that combo. They have Spell Shield. You literally have to find a way to stop it before it comes out. It's hard.
The deck is weakest to counters. I feel like if you can get rid of one of those key pieces, the deck is really in a lurch. Also, you'll notice when you look at the deck list, so much of the deck list is about drawing into those pieces. If you don't find them, you can really struggle to keep up with your opponent.
So Speed Limit does take that matchup 1-0 with the Archon deck. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at reserves for both players, starting with Speed Limit, playing with 3 Crocosaurs, 2 Succulent Cluckadons, 3 Mentor of Oakhenge, 4 Connoisseurs, 1 Counter Magic, and 2 Verdicts of the Ancient Kings. Dino, what are some options for Speed Limit?
Wow, just about every single one of those things. It is anti-aggro to a T. Counter Magic is probably not essential. Verdict, I wouldn't see being that relevant either. JacquoRen did not showcase any really powerful actions, but troops, there were aplenty, and things like Carnosaurus, Succulent Cluckadon, and or Crocosaur are all excellent options against low-cost Shinhair.
Let's take a look at JacquoRen's reserves as well. He's playing 2 Bolt Paw Wizards, 2 Necrophage Senseis, 1 Shinhair Eulogist, 2 Hop Hero Samurais, 4 Killblades, 2 Kills, and 2 Abominates. What are some options that JacquoRen can use to help him get a win?
You know, an unconventional approach might be to go with Necrophage Sensei. I guess it depends on how big the gap is between the first Archon that's played and the second. You could have a very large troop come across the board.
So we're going into game number 2, where Speed Limit is up 1-0 against JacquoRen. JacquoRen will have the ability to play first. We'll go ahead and take a look at opening hands for both players. Speed Limit saying good game. Both of them saying good game. Good sportsmanship by both players.
It's always good to see.
So JacquoRen will go first. Opening hand for Speed Limit is Triple Sapphire, a Shard of Instinct, a Wild Shard, Time Ripple, and Crocosaur. It looks like JacquoRen has mulliganed down to 6. Got to Blood Shard, Crackling Vortex, Scroll of Yazukan, Shroomshaw, and 2 Minion of Yazukan. And it looks like Speed Limit is going to mulligan as well. Now his hand is double Sapphire, Time Ripple, double Chlorophylla, and an Archon of Nulzon. He will keep that hand, and turn will shift back to JacquoRen, who will play a Blood Shard. And a Minion of Yazukan will join the field for JacquoRen, and he'll pass a turn back over to Speed Limit. Speed Limit draws a Wild. We'll play a Sapphire and pass the turn back over to JacquoRen.
I was going to say, the keep by Speed Limit was a slightly risky hand until he drew the Wild just right there. Chlorophyllias are kind of like Wild Shards, except when they aren't. If you don't have that first Wild threshold, you can be locked for quite some time. But now he should be able to ramp up to Archon levels fairly quickly.
So turn is back over to JacquoRen. His draw is a Gift of Yazukan. He'll play a Crackling Vortex, go up to 3 charge power. And we'll play Shroomshaw as we get ready to go into attack phase.
Now, Minion of Yazukan is actually quite a scary troop because it does not die. Every time it would normally be sent to the crypt, it instead tunnels underground, and then after 2 turns, will pop right back up again with +1 attack.
Activation of Bonoshi the Ruthless on the Shroomshaw will power up the Minion of Yazukan to 3. That'll bring speed limit down to 18 health and pass the turn. Draw 4 speed limit is an Okenge ceremony. We'll play a wild at a single wild, single sapphire threshold, 2 resources, play Chlorophilia, and we'll play a wild from his deck.
So this is what I'm talking about when it comes to the overall weakness of a combo deck. Right now, everything in his hand is either stall, ramp, or designed to find speed limit his combo pieces. He already has 1 Archon. He needs 2 plus his Gambit.
Okay, Okenge ceremony for, it looks like a Howling Brave will be the play for speed limit, and he'll pass the turn.
Now you look at that top 5 cards, one of them was a Gambit. Those cards will be put back into Speed Limit's deck, so he's going to need to find another one.
Turn passes back over to JacquoRen, sitting with a Minion of Yazukan and 2 Battle Hoppers on his board. His draw is another Scroll of Yazukan, 2 resources, stuck on 2 though, as we get ready for combat phase. 3 inbound, 2 speed limit. That'll bring him down to 15 health.
Well, the thing about this deck is 2 resources might be all you need. And the one thing JacquoRen could still be looking for is that second blood threshold. He's unable to play his Gift of Yazukan, but he could play a second minion.
And indeed, a second minion will join the field for JacquoRen as he passes the turn over to speed limit. His draw is a Sapphire. We'll play a Sapphire. Add 4 resources. We'll play Chlorophilia. That'll bring him back up to 3.
One slight advantage that JacquoRen has against Speed Limit's stall, because we've seen Buccaneers, we've seen Time Ripple, is if Speed Limit decides to Buccaneer one of the bunnies, JacquoRen always has the opportunity to tunnel it for 2. It doesn't matter how expensive they become, it can still be tunneled for 2.
Activation of Wyatt will bring a second Time Ripple into Speed Limit's hand. He will play a Howling Brave and pass the turn back over to JacquoRen. He's got 2 Minions of Yazukan. One of them is a 3/3, 2 Battle Hoppers. His draw is a Blood Shard. We'll play it out now at 3 resources.
You got to think, JacquoRen sitting there on the side with that Gift of Yazukan in hand, you almost want one of your Shinhair to be sent to the crypt. You almost want something to die so you can bring it back better than it ever was before.
Attack with the 3/3 and 1/1 Minion of Yazukan into Speed Limit. Speed Limit responds with a Time Ripple to the 3/3 Minion of Yazukan. That'll go back in to his hand, and it looks like he's going to let that 1 minion go through. So that'll bring Speed Limit down to 14 health.
14 is low, but it's not dangerous low. And once Speed Limit plays the Archon, assuming he does, he's not afraid of it dying to extinction or something of that nature, he will have a fairly large and durable blocker.
Scroll of Yazukan is played by JacquoRen, and he will end the turn, and it will pass back over to Speed Limit. His draw is an Arcane Focus. Sapphire Shard is now played. He's at 6 resources. We'll play Arcane Focus. He'll take a look at the top 2 cards of his deck. He'll be able to select one to put into his hand.
An interesting bit of anti-synergy is that, as far as JacquoRen is considered, he'd rather that his troops are killed instead of bounced. Bouncing does not put counters on your scrolls. It does not put counters on your eulogists.
Arcane Focus reveals double Wild Shard, so Wild Shard will go into Speed Limit's hand. Speed Limit taking a look at that Scroll of Yazukan to make sure he understands how it works. He does have enough resources to play Archon with using the Howling Brave.
He's thinking about it. He's worried. Is there a board wipe in the future?
He is going to activate the Howling Brave, go up to 6 temporary resources, and here comes the Archon of Nulzon. 8 cards from JacquoRen's deck are going to go into the crypt. We see on top is a Crackling Vortex. And
this could be one of those stages where that's dangerous, because the Scroll of Yazukan gets counters for every troop. Plus, now You could see Gift of Yazakon coming down to bring back one of those dead Shin'Hair.
Scroll of Yazakon is up to 5 on that counter. Draw 4. JacquoRen is a blood shard now at 4 resources, sitting with a 2-cost minion of Yazakon, Scroll of Yazakon, and a Gift of Yazakon in his hand.
Now, the Scroll of Yazakon is unique. So you can see his second scroll. You do get counters on the Scroll of Yazakon, whether it's in your hand or in play. So that's a really nice effect. But if he plays his second scroll, the first one will be sacrificed. So he's got to be careful about when and how he plays that second scroll.
So it looks like he is trying to decide his line of play. Sitting across from him is that 4/4 Archon of Nolzon.
Wow.
Wow.
That's going to be big.
That's going to be huge. So a Monsoon is now a 6/6 raging, lethal, life-draining monster. And he played the other Scroll of Yazakon. Oh, he just gave up the one with 8 counters on the board. Played that. He has that 1 card in hand, that minion of Yazakon, and the turn will pass back over to Speedlimit. His draws an Archon of Nolzon.
That may have been a critical misstep here that would have generated a 6/6 Blasphemous Horror that also has Crush. Great way to force damage through.
Wild Shard is played for Speedlimit, sitting at 7 resources. Another Archon of Nolzon in his hand.
If playing that Archon is actually a pretty big gamble. Speedlimit can do so, of course. But by playing it, while he does gain board presence, he sacrifices his ability, if he were to draw into a Replicator's Gambit, to fish for the replicated Archon.
And yeah, so it's definitely a hard situation. He will pass a turn without playing it. And JacquoRen's turn will start. He has a 6/6 Monsoon, a 6/6 Blasphemous Horror on the board. He draws a blood shard, will play it. It's now at 5 resources. Has a minion of Yazakon in hand. It will play it. That's a 3/3 minion due to it being the sacrifice and the champion ability from Benoshi. And Speedlimit will respond with a Time Ripple on the Monsoon.
Okay, solid play there by Speedlimit, waiting until JacquoRen plays something and then cannot recast the bigger threat. So that was pretty good. JacquoRen, on the other hand, does have 3 charges, so he could sacrifice something and buff up the Blasphemous Horror, for example, make it even bigger of a threat. We'll see how he decides to play this.
Looks like he's gonna tunnel the Monsoon. And we're going to get ready to go into combat phase. Nothing there. Turn passes back over to Speedlimit. He draws a Sapphire Shard. That'll put him at 8 resources, 9 with the Howling Brave. And he still has an Archon of Nolzon in hand.
Tunneling that Monsoon was an interesting choice. I want to say that it, on the one hand, you don't lose as much tempo. You're using all of your resources on your turn. On the other hand, however, Monsoon does have Tunneling 4. And so it will be 4 more turns before his troop does resurface and has presence on the board.
Turn will pass back to JacquoRen. Minion of Yazakon is put back onto the field. So JacquoRen's board is a 6/6 Blasphemy, a minion of Yazakon that's a 3/3, and a minion of Yazakon that's a 2/1. Draw is a blood shard. That'll put him at 6. If he plays it, he might hold on to it, and looks like he is. And we're going into combat phase.
Should be noted that sacrifice effects could still be used in the near future. Make something able to trade favorably with that Archon. As if the Archon dies, that's again a key combo piece that Speedlimit cannot afford to lose.
So this is 11 damage inbound. Looks like blocking assigned from Speedlimit. He's going to block the 2/1 with the minion, or with the Howling Brave, and the Archon of Nolzon is going to block the 3/3 minion of Yazakon. So that'll remove both Yazakons. Speedlimit will lose the Howling Brave. He'll also take 6 damage, and that'll bring him down to 8 health.
Yeah, I want to say while speed limit is getting dangerously low, this is a favorable trade for him. This removes both of those minions for a couple of turns at least, and what it does is it buys him time. If he draws into a gambit, he has the resources to play the gambit, fetch, and I think with one more resource could even do the whole I win combo immediately in one turn. So it's just hoping for that top deck.
Speedlimit definitely wanting to find that Replicator's Gambit. Turn passes back to Speedlimit. It's a Buccaneer. He'll play that Sapphire, go to 8 resources, Archon of Malzahn and Buccaneer in hand.
I have to say, this is probably an unfavorable matchup for JacquoRen, sort of an unintentional counter. A lot of these bounce effects are actually fairly brutal for a deck that focuses so much on low drops that become better over time. For JacquoRen not tossing down that Blood Shard, he will need 2 more turns before he can replay Blasphemous Horror.
Attack from Speedlimit with the Archon of Malzahn will bring JacquoRen down to 14. Turn passes back to JacquoRen. He's got that 7 cost Blasphemous Horror. He's going to play his Crackling Vortex, which he drew. No, plays a Blood Shard, excuse me. Blood Shard still has Crackling Vortex and the Blasphemous Horror in hand. We'll pass the turn back over to Speedlimit. His draw is an Okenge Ceremony. He's going to be looking for a troop.
And this is where tunneling those troops suddenly becomes a liability for JacquoRen. He needs more bodies on the board now. Combo aside, Speedlimit could win with a simple beatdown.
Carnosaurus, Crocosaur, and Howling Brave are the troops that are revealed. It looks like Speedlimit's going to select that Crocosaur. So that'll go in his hand. He does have the threshold to play it. We go to attack phase. Decides not to attack, and will pass a turn back over to JacquoRen.
Interesting. Must be worried about the tunnelers. Indeed, that's 4 damage. That's very, very close to lethal.
Minion of Yazukan surfaces. It's a 4/3. JacquoRen does have a Blasphemous Horror in hand. It does cost 7, and he also has a Crackling Vortex. The second minion of Yazukan pops up. So a 4/3 minion of Yazukan and a 3/1 minion of Yazukan on the field for JacquoRen.
I think there are multiple lines of play here for JacquoRen. The recommendation is probably to use the champion power to make sure you can force damage through. But it looks like he's going to go aggressive and just swing in right away.
He does attack phase. The 4/3 and the 3/1 minion of Yazukan's coming in to Speedlimit. Not quite lethal. If he took the damage, it would bring him to 1. Bring him to 1. Speedlimit trying to decide how he's going to handle this. He does have a 4/4 Archon of Malzahn and a 2/2 Buccaneer.
It's a really tough decision, because if he blocks with the Archon and loses it, he will not be able to pull off his combo. He's going to have to rely on forcing the damage.
Buccaneer will block the 4/3 minion of Yazukan. That means Speedlimit's going to take 5 and go to 5. Speedlimit wants to find that Replicator's Gambit. JacquoRen is going to play that 7 cost Blasphemous Horror, so a 6/6 Crush troop is on the board, in addition to those 2 minions of Yazukan. And also, don't forget that tunnel card underneath is that Monsoon. He will sacrifice and pump up that sacrifice a minion of Yazukan. That Blasphemy Horror is now an 8/8 with Crush. Arcane Focus is the draw for Speedlimit, looking for Replicator's Gambit. We'll see what the 2 cards are.
In the absence of a Gambit, if he cannot find Gambit, it might start making sense for Speedlimit to just start tossing troops down. He's in full-on defensive mode. If he's hit by any one of these troops, it is going to be GG. He needs to build up a wall and just hope he can start withstanding this onslaught.
Time Ripple is the card selected with Arcane Focus. This is a rough spot for Speedlimit. What would you do in this spot, Dino?
It's a tough call. Part of me just wants to just dump troops down and try and keep Time Ripple up for making some favorable trades. Crocosaur is nice as removal. When it comes into play, it gets to battle to target troops, but the troops on board are way too big. Crocosaur might try to nom, but it's just going to choke on that 8/8 Blasphemous Horror. You can't kill it. So maybe you just toss it down as extra leverage. I don't know.
And remember, that Monsoon will come up next turn. It will come up next turn.
He's doing it.
He is going to activate Crocosaur's ability and then Time Ripple the Blasphemous Horror.
Next level plays. Is that going to still carry through the combat?
It should still carry through and do damage to that minion. It does.
Oh, what a play.
Nice play from Speedlimit. He is going to have that threat from the Monsoon as when he passes the turn. What a play from Speedlimit. Turn will pass back over to JacquoRen. Monsoon is now in play. That is a 6/6 Monsoon with Rage, Life Drain, and Speed, of course, because it surfaced and lethal.
It's a really big problem for Speedlimit because at a 6/6 body, he's going to have to double block if he wants to kill the Monsoon. He cannot take damage from that Monsoon either. It is lethal.
Shin here, Eulogist is played from JacquoRen. He's going to use the champion ability to sacrifice it and pump up the Blasphemous Horror. So 8/8 Blasphemous Horror, 6/6 Monsoon. And let's see how this attack phase is going to be done from JacquoRen. He's going to swing in with the Monsoon, 8 damage inbound with lethal and with life drain. Looks like he's going to block with the Crocosaur. That means JacquoRen's going to gain 8 life.
And when I say lethal, I do mean in both senses. If Speedlimit takes a single hit from that thing, he will lose this game. But also, any troop that is dealt any damage by the Monsoon dies, no matter its health total.
The out that Speedlimit needs is not. He draws an Archon of Nolzon.
But every Archon he plays, unless he's actually burying JacquoRen out, it just creates more abominations.
So double Archon. Oh, no, he's going to play an Archon of Nolzon and then use the ability from Archon of Nolzon to find another Archon of Nolzon. And that's going to do it. Speedlimit saying GG to JacquoRen. And he will toss this game. So we are tied 1-1 between Speedlimit and JacquoRen. What a matchup there. Reserves for Speedlimit. Any other changes you think that Speedlimit should make in this matchup?
Oh, man. I mean, first off, I want to say what a play. He got to a point where removal was so incredibly necessary. Something makes me think a counter magic for a Monsoon could be relevant, but mostly just getting Crocosaur before things grow out of Crocosaur range. I think it was mostly a sequencing issue. When did he draw his threats? Not at the right time. They were a little bit too late to matter in that game. If he draws them earlier, though, they could be very, very impactful.
And JacquoRen, let's take a look at his reserves again. What are some options for JacquoRen?
I think JacquoRen really took advantage of not only his scrolls, but also buffing things up outside of Speedy's removal range. If he can do that again, maybe with Abominate, perhaps, that might be enough to take him all the way.
So we're going to game number 3, the important game. Does Speedlimit come out with a victory, or is JacquoRen going to defeat Speedlimit and give him his second loss here in the casting Colosseum? Both players saying good luck to each other. We're going to take a look at opening hands for Speedlimit. He has a Sapphire Shard, a Shard of Instinct, Double Wild, decides to chuck it, and now we'll stay with a Shard of Instinct, Wild Shard, Oracle Song, Chlorophilia, Archon of Nolzon, and a Howling Brave. And on the opposite side for JacquoRen, he has 5 Blood Shards and 2 Minion of Yazukans. Will Mulligan goes down. He now has a Blood Shard, Crackling Vortex, Born to Die, Retro Brood, Wakazashi Ambusher, and a Monsoon. We'll keep that hand. Shard of Instinct is played for Speed Limit. It will be a 4 Sapphire threshold, and he'll pass a turn.
I want to say good instincts on those mulligans for both players. Lots of shards can lead to flooding where you get too many resources very, very easily. And particularly for Speed Limit, you want one of your combo pieces. Ideally in your opening hand, you need to find 3 of them to make your combo work. If you don't have at least one, that could be a tall order.
Draw for JacquoRen is a Blood Shard. He'll play it and pass the turn to Speed Limit.
Now, on the flip side, whenever you are a Blood player or even just a Blood Bunny player, Monsoon Shogun of Windogen is great to have early on because anything that you play that is killed or ends up in the crypt somehow will come back because of those deception counters.
Wild Shard is played for Speed Limit Chlorophilia. He drew Replicator's Gambit, so he has a piece of the puzzle.
And second draw there. Such a big deal. Such a big deal. I cannot emphasize this enough. With only one more card necessary and draw in the form of Oracle Song, we might see another quick game on Speed Limit's side.
Speed Limit will play that Howling Brave, and turn will pass back over to JacquoRen. His draw is a minion of Yazukan. He will play a Blood Shard, so now it's at 2 resources, double blood. And looks like he's going to tunnel the Wakizashi Ambusher, and that'll pass the turn back over to Speed.
That's actually a really strong play because Wakizashi Ambusher is removal. And one of the things that JacquoRen needs to be afraid of is Speed Limit gaining enough resources to pull off his Archon combo. If you can slow that down by killing a Howling Brave, you might be able to build up a board like you did last game and sail to victory.
Draw for Speed Limit is a Shard of Instinct. He'll play it for the Sapphire threshold, now a double Sapphire, triple Wild, and going to Oracle Song and draw a few cards.
Here it is, guys. Hold your breath. Will he find the Replicate? Sorry, not the Replicate, the Mimic. Mimic is a key or another Archon. No.
Did not find it. Looks like he's going to activate the Howling Brave for a temporary resource and play a second Howling Brave. And he'll pass the turn back over to JacquoRen. Definitely got some pieces. Definitely looking for more. Turn for JacquoRen. His draw.
There are multiple lines of play that can happen here. One is he dumps his hand and just plays all of his minions, all of his tunnelers, and just screaming aggro. The other is to go a little bit more combo-y and toss down a Wretched Brood and then use Born to Die to deal damage to Speed Limit.
Crackling Vortex is played for JacquoRen. We'll play a minion of Yazukan and a Wretched Brood, and we'll pass the turn.
Looks like a little column A, column, and a little of column B. Can't say that's a bad decision. Getting a early Brood will give him Battle Hoppers, which he can sacrifice, JacquoRen can sacrifice to buff up his other troops.
Chlorophilia is the draw for Speed Limit. We'll play a Wild Shard, now at 5 resources, double Sapphire, and 5 Wild Threshold. Can activate his champion ability to draw a card. He has 7 resources with the Howling Braves if he wants to activate that. We'll play a Chlorophilia. That'll bring him back up to 4.
Guys, I want you to realize how incredibly tense this is for Speed Limit. Every draw could be the last one that he needs. Because JacquoRen is in blood, there are very few counters, interrupt effects, other things that the Speed Limit needs to play around. All that needs to happen is the Archon comes down, he draws into his replicated Archon and plays it. That's it.
Activation of both Howling Braves will get him up to the resources he needs to play the Archon of Nolzon, Disciple of Yazukan, double Ambushers, Gift of Yazukan, feeding the young ones also in the crypt as a result of Archon of Nolzon.
It's actually a little bit unfortunate for Speed Limit. The Yazukan there with the 3 counters will be able to come back because mill effects, bury effects do still proc.
Disciple Yazukan, it comes back from the crypt into play. Draw for JacquoRen is a Shroomshaw. 3 resources available. Looks like he's going to use 2 of those to tunnel that Monsoon. And he will play another minion of Yazukan. So 2 minions of Yazukan, a Battle Hopper, and Disciple of Yazukan on the board for JacquoRen as we get ready to go into attack phase.
And this is a great moment also to use the champion power, and indeed we see Benoshi so critical because Speed Limit has 0 resources open. He is not presenting a time ripple.
Using the ability from Benoshi the Ruthless to power up that Disciple of Yazukan. It is a flyer. Going to swing in with that. That's 4 damage inbound to Speed Limit. Looks like he's going to block with the Archon of Nulzon, so he'll take 3, go down to 18, and that minion will go and be tunneled.
And slightly risky. You can see Speed Limit, pushing the limits. If JacquoRen had another scroll in hand, that could be enough to push it over and start creating abominations, which was so incredibly effective last game.
Draw for Speed Limit is an Arcane Focus. We'll play a resource. Now it's 7. Looks like he's going to activate Replicator's Gambit on the Archon of Nulzon. He will draw a card with Replicator's Gambit. That's a Chlorophilia. We'll play that out. He'll go up to 5 resources. Arcane Focus could be an answer if that Archon is one of the top 2 cards. Let's see if it is.
Wouldn't it be so tragic if he drew into a Mimic?
The card from Arcane Focus is a Crocosaur. So he is going to activate a Howling Brave for a temporary resource in order to play that Crocosaur, and he's going to remove both the Battle Hopper and the Disciple of Yazukan.
Strong plays. JacquoRen is going to need to build up his board yet again if he wants to keep this aggression. The win con has been put back into Speed Limit's deck. All he needs to do is find it.
Swing again with the remaining Howling Brave. That'll do 1 point of damage and bring JacquoRen down to 16 health, and Speed Limit will pass the turn. This is a tense matchup here. Wakizashi Ambusher is going to come out. It's a 6-5, which is enough to kill the Crocosaur.
That's huge.
Wow. 6-5 Wakizashi Ambusher, and that Crocosaur is going to go to the crypt.
This is actually a immensely impactful moment in the game. Being able to remove Crocosaur. Speed Limit has 0 cards in hand, no way to take care of this, and no troops on board that can withstand a 6-5 body. And that'll mean he can swing in for 6 damage, 2 or 3 more swings like this, and Speed Limit will fold.
Blood Shard is the draw and play for JacquoRen. We go into attack phase. That's 6 damage that Speed Limit can't do anything about. He is going to go down to 12 health. Born to Die and Shroomshaw, the cards remaining in his hand. Looks like he is going to use Born to Die and Shroomshaw. And
that's also really scary. Yeah,
it is really scary. Turn passes back over to Speed Limit. It's an Archon of Nulzon, and it is. Oh, it's not the copied one. It's not the copied one. Unfortunately, not.
Wow. What are the odds?
Oh, it is. He's going to search for the one. That's right. So he's going to search for the replicated copy, and this is going to be GG Speed Limit, pulling it out with the activation ability of Archon of Nulzon, searching for the one that was replicated with Replicator's Gambit, and this is going to completely decimates JacquoRen's deck, and he just tosses the table. So Speed Limit gets redemption finally from his Sunday matchup and will take this victory over JacquoRen 2-1 in this exciting matchup. Really, really, really great matchup between these two players. JacquoRen definitely putting up a good fight against Speed Limit, with Speed Limit drawing the card he needed with the Archon of Nulzon to find that replicated one and win that matchup. Very exciting match, Dino.
Oh, yeah. No, for me, this is what makes combo decks so fun to play. They give you a sense of mastery when you have all those pieces, but they also leave you on the edge there. Will I get everything I need? You know, it raises the tension for both players, because if you know how the deck functions, if you know what it works, you can actually kind of guess what your opponent might have in hand. And so there's that urgency there. Can I stop them before the major pieces come down? And JacquoRen was able to do it once, but sadly not for a second time.
Well, congratulations to both players. Definitely a very entertaining matchup. And we are about to go down to the tournament floor where we have our Hex Reporter Alucard with our winner, Speed Limit, taking that matchup 2-1 over JacquoRen. So let's head on down to the tournament floor where Alucard is ready to do his interview.
That's right, Adam and Nathan. We are here with Speedlimit, the winner of this exciting matchup against JacquoRen. That was an amazing one. Congratulations, Speedlimit. How are you feeling right now?
Like the luckiest Hex player alive. That was just live by combo, win by combo, I guess. Holy cow.
Yeah, those Archon of Dual Zod combos were really amazing, and that clutch top deck at the end definitely sealed it. What actually made you decide to play this deck at all?
Well, so I was going through. I want to shout out to Celandine, actually. He's hanging out in chat here. I was tooling around with some ideas for some different decks that we could try to have a little fun with, but still might be competitive. And after going through a few, I just knew I had to play just a combo that searches for itself. The Archon is a really fun card to play, and so I was just really looking forward to kind of tooling around my deck and decking people out. So yeah.
Very cool. So obviously, we have Replicators, Gambit, and we have the Archon. Mimic could potentially be kind of a combo piece in there as well. But what other key cards do you think kind of helped you out in this particular matchup?
Well, I think one of the interesting things about this deck is I know that there have been some people playing it now and then. I haven't seen this deck since Set 3 came out, and there are definitely some exciting cards, particularly a card like Crocosaur to help with a deck like that, where I need to buy some time and need to keep looking for that combo. The other huge card is Arcane Focus. It's so good at going through your deck and looking for those pieces. So those were huge. Yeah, I mean, it's tough just because between Archon and Replicator's Gambit, that's like the essentials. Everything else, there's so many different ways to go with this deck, but I like the ramp kind of draw through your deck version that I'm running here.
Yeah, we definitely saw those Chlorophyllias kind of thin out the deck so you could search even more for some of those things. So there's a lot of cool synergy there.
Absolutely.
For sure. So being a veteran player here in the casting Colosseum, being our only gladiator to have fallen so far, how do you feel about redeeming yourself right now?
Well, I feel one of these two matches was certainly a fluke. Time will tell which one it was. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to playing some more. I did want to say, if you could just give that Mastery of Time, if you give that to Faust, even though I won, just go ahead and do that. That'd be great too.
Wow, that is very kind. Well, if you ever got to a 100K tournament, would you do the same? Would you do the same?
No. No hesitation. No.
Okay.
But I appreciate the question.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks so much for giving us such an entertaining match. It was a really fun and great match to watch, and joining me here for this interview. So we're gonna toss it back up to Adam and Nathan, and I think we're gonna get into our next casting Colosseum match. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, great interview there from Alucard, aka Vinay. Great stuff there. We're going to be going on to our next matchup, and our gladiator is going to be Triple Z. But Alucard, who is his opponent going to be?